Hello, everybody. My name is Aisan, one of the cognitive behavior therapists working in Talking Change, and here is my colleague.
Hi, I'm Jess Punton. I'm also a cognitive behavioural therapist at Talking Change.
So, really, today we're going to present our acceptance and commitment therapy workshop. And the main objective of today is just find a way to cope with your difficult thoughts and feelings and emotions, and hopefully just being able to still live the life you would desire to live with current limitations. So we're going to use face COVID-19 steps, and this has been taken from Ross Harris, who is one of the leading experts in ACT, which is acronym we're using for acceptance and commitment therapy. So these are a couple of practical steps just for responding effectively, how to respond effectively toward this COVID-19 crisis. So we will be breaking down these steps as we're going along through our presentation. So the first phase of this is standing F for focus on what is in your control. So, I mean, obviously, as you all know, the corona has affected us in many different ways. Has affected us in psychologically, emotionally, economically, and it is quite natural when we're facing such a crisis, we're going all to fear, anxiety, and fear. And these are inevitable, and we can't really avoid them. And anxiety and fear, they are kind of the natural response of our body toward any kind of threat which may or may not happen in the future. And obviously, when we are going to experience these kind of emotions, there's so much things that they are out of our control and we can't really control them. And it is easy for all of us to get lost and ruminating and getting hooked by all those negative thoughts, and because we can't really control the situation. So we can't control what's going to happen with COVID-19, we can't control the coronavirus itself, and we can't control the world economy, and we can't control the government budget, and we can't really magically control our emotions. And I guess, indeed, the more we kind of focusing on what is not in our control, the more hopeless and anxious we're going to feel. So really, if you can just look at this little table here, there's so much things we can't really control. So vast majority of our emotions and feelings, we are not able to control them. But I guess how you actually respond to that type of emotions, these are in our control. We're going to focus on to say what we can control, what type of control we have on the things we are able to control. And the reality is, most of people, they might be thinking they do have a control of their thoughts and feelings. But the problem is we can't really control our thoughts and feelings. We are able just to control our own action. So here, something this is in our control. That's how we respond to our emotions and feelings. And the fact with COVID-19, we all have just going through the lockdown period. We are not able to control the lockdown period itself, but how we actually spend our time at home and how we are kind of responding to this type of difficult situation, these are on our control. So we're going to really look at to see what is in our control, what is kind of really limited in our control. And how are we going to do this? So this involves both dealing with our inner world, all our difficult emotions and feelings, and just with dealing with the outer world, which is more about the understanding of the real problem, which is we are already facing with COVID-19. So I guess because if we learn how to control the things we are able to control, then we can make a huge difference to ourselves, for the loved people, for the community, and the really to helping the people. So we're going to look at to see how we are able to control our inner world. So this A standing for acknowledge your thoughts and feelings. So I'm going to use a metaphor here, just hope to make sense. Suppose our boat sails into the harbor. Just as a huge storm is blowing up, what would be the top priority for you? So I would reckon you might start to drop an anchor. Obviously, by dropping an anchor, we didn't just get away from storm, and we were really not able to control the weather, but we will help us to kind of feel steady until the storm passes. So obviously, when we are going through this type of crisis with COVID-19, we all experience the emotional storm in our life, and we might have a negative thoughts and feelings and painful memories all might come up, and they might start to show up for us. And if we are kind of swept away by this type of emotional storm, we are probably not be able to respond effectively toward this type of crisis. So what we're going to do, we're going to learn how we are actually able to kind of feel steady, like dropping an anchor in the real world with a boat life, how we are actually able to feel steady in front of this type of emotion storm. So the first practical step is dropping an anchor. So how are we going to do this? We're going to silently and kindly acknowledge whatever thoughts, feelings, any memories, any emotions, any urges, or any sensations showing up for us in our inner world. We're going to make room for them. So we're going to take a stand of a curious child. We're going to discover something really new. We're going to observe what's going on in our inner world. And I'm really curious to see as we're going along through this presentation, really just to notice what type of thoughts might be going on through your head. Any thoughts or any sensation? We're going to really experience this together. Just notice what's your mind telling you right now. Just make room for them. So your mind might be just telling, I'm not going to get this, but just okay. But just please don't judge it. Just make a room for them. Just acknowledge them. And just take a stand up curious child, just to see what's going on in your head right now at the present moment. And just try to put them into the word and try to verbalize it. I am noticing my painful memory, or I am noticing I'm not gonna get this anyway. Or any feelings might be happening to you, or any sensation. Just try to notice them and just try to put them into the word. And just try to make room for them. So as we're going along by this, so just remember, by the time when we're trying to anchor ourselves to the present moment, so as we said, you can't control the emotional storm, but what we try to do, we just try to anchor ourselves. But this anchoring ourselves, it is a choice, and this is in your control. So you got to really explore this, how we're going to anchor ourselves to the present moment. So as we acknowledging all the negative thoughts and memories might be showing us to us and just making room for them, we're going to explore the third element, which is come back into your body. So here is just more about regaining a sense of self-control by focusing on what is in your control by your physical action. So the key message is, even though you might have those negative emotions and feelings and painful memories, but still you have your control on your physical action. They might be not able to, you are not able to control those negative emotions and feelings, but you are still able to manage your physical action. So you can do it in many ways. So maybe you can just move your hand, just change your posture, maybe by sitting upright, by pushing your feet into the floor, by altering your breath, or just by walking. So remember, the main message here is that we are not trying to get away from, we are not trying to escape or just avoid all those negative emotions and feelings. I guess the main message here is just we are trying to remain aware and stay focused, just noticing whatever emotions might be happening for all of us, and just be continuing acknowledging their presence, and again coming back to our body and noticing what is in my control. I can change my posture. I can move my hand. I can shake my leg, or could be anything. And as you're acknowledging your negative thoughts and emotions, making room for them, coming back to your body. So we're gonna look at the fourth element, which is engaging with the world. So E standing for engaging with the world. So here is really the main aim is just expanding our awareness and become really fully present here and right now, just to get a sense of the present moment, refocus your attention to things you are doing just right now. So you could do it again in your own way. So you can just start to look around and just name 5 things you can see. So for example, I can bring my attention to my window, to my curtains, and to my sofa, to my desk, to my laptop, could be anything. And again, we're going to notice 4 things we can touch. So the sense of touch is quite powerful. Because you might be, when you're walking down the street, you might be just somebody might be waving at you, but you never notice that because your mind could be just drift somewhere else. But if somebody coming and tapping on your shoulder, you started noticing them. So that means a sense of touch is quite powerful. So you can subtly touch your hair, you can just touch your body, you can touch your desk. And then we going to the third one, which is more about the hearing. So we're gonna notice to see what we can hear. Three things we can pay attention to listen to. It could be my voice, any music in the background, perhaps, or maybe people chatting outside. And the other one is sense of smell. So smell is quite powerful because the sense of smell is actually stored in our limbic system. So it is helpful for all of us to be kind of to think about what type of smell we might be liking. So for example, you could have find something like a coffee bean or essential oils. The smell again is quite strong to kind of keep us stayed and focused into the present moment. So again, you might be started smelling your hair or any perfume you like, or anything really. We can actually help you to come back to the present moment again, to become really fully engaged with whatever you're doing right now. And the last one is the taste. So the taste again is quite powerful because based on the recent research, it shows us if you imagine there's a big lemon in your mouth, I'm sure you're going to start to produce so much saliva, which is apparently helpful because they actually help you to kind of to feel less anxious. The more you produce saliva, you're going to feel less anxious. So, which is quite powerful to understanding of those five sensories. Like we trying to help us to kind of engage with the present moment. So again, it's just all depends on you. What can you see? What can you touch? What can you hear? Or what can you taste or smell? It doesn't matter how many of them. Please don't get caught up on how many how can I see or how many I need to smell. It just being aware of those sensations is quite powerful. How to kind of help you to stay focused on the present moment. And here is we have got a dropping an anchor exercise, and this is all about the invitation. And remember, the kind of acceptance commitment therapy, it is kind of experiential type of therapy. So I would really definitely would love to kind of do this exercise with you here. Again, as I said, it's all about invitation. I'm really inviting you to do this exercise with me. So as we all know, dropping an icon exercise, it is going to help us to engage and focus with life and take control of our own action. So sometimes maybe during a day, we might get hooked by all those negative thoughts and painful memories. And in this case, we're gonna lose a sense of touch with the reality, with the present moment, and our attention is pulled away from where it needs to go. So our aim is to here today, we're just going to experience and just to realize how when our mind get hooked by all those negative thoughts, how we can actually be completely present and stay focused by dropping an anchor, how we're going to anchor ourselves. So take a moment, just notice what thoughts or feelings are showing up for you right now. So what is your mind telling you? Your mind might be complaining, worrying, agreeing, or disagreeing with me. Or has it gone silent or chattering away in the background? Just try to notice, just try to acknowledge them and make room for them. Or see if you can just find one or two words, just put them into the really nice word and just try to verbalize it. Yes, my mind is just has gone silent, or my mind is just complaining right now in the present moment. Get a curious moment and just notice what type of emotion or sensation might be showing up for you right now. Acknowledge them. Just take a moment to notice them. And again, put those into the word, whatever feelings might be showing up for you. I am noticing my anxiety, or I am noticing my feeling of anger. Just notice them. Now gently come back into your body. Push your feet into the floor. Try to get a sense of your legs and arms and get a sense of the world around you. Open your eyes and ears. Now look around and notice whatever you're noticing. The things you can see, the things you can hear. Breathe into the air and just notice what can you smell. Notice what can you taste in your mouth. Or even if you can't notice any special taste, just notice that wetness and the warmth and moisture in your mouth. Just notice the world around you. So there's a lot of stuff right now here in present moment. There is your mouth, there is your thoughts and feelings. So many of them, they're floating around. There's your body, there's the world around you. So what we're going to learn from this exercise, we just want to say, when we get hooked by those negative thoughts, we are able to manage our own action. We are in control of our physical action. And then we can re-engage with the present moment. And then once we kind of anchoring ourselves to the present moment, then we can respond to any crisis effectively. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague. So she's going to explain the other steps for you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Aisan. So once you've dropped that anchor that Aisan was talking through there, once you've steadied that ship, you'll have much more control over your actions and you'll be much more free to make choices. So this is the time to really think about the choices that will best serve you, rather than just responding on autopilot or with blind instinct. The idea here is that we're going to try and do this thing called committed action. And basically what that means is it's taking effective action that is guided by your values, the things that are of importance to you. And we'll come on to that a little bit later. So taking effective action, obviously, in this day and age, will include following all of the guidance that we've had around COVID-19, so things like regular hand washing and social distancing and so on. But it will also be important to consider the simple ways that you can look after yourself or others around you or your community as a whole. And that's what we're going to look at a little bit just now. So if we move on just to the next slide there. I guess this is a really important question to run through in your own mind day to day. Just checking in with yourself, what can I do right now, no matter how small it is, that improves life for me or other people? And you will answer that in many different ways. It will be different for everybody. Here we've just put a few ideas, really, some of the things that people might have thought of before. So learning something new, for example, maybe really tapping into that creative side of yourself, taking some exercise, playing a game with a child, providing that entertainment and that connection with them. It might be about investing time in that relationship, so maybe doing a date night at home. Whatever it is that you choose to do, whatever it is that is going to improve life for you and other people, the essential thing is to do it. And that takes us on to the next slide here. So do it and engage with it fully. So for example, let's say you've decided that you want to cook a meal for the family. If that's something that's going to improve life for you and others around you, that might be what you set yourself to do. Now, when you start kind of preparing for that meal, it's really worth paying attention and reminding yourself of why you're doing it. Remind yourself of why this is important to you. So perhaps it is about providing something nourishing for the family, or maybe it's about, treating someone to their favorite meal and bringing a smile to their face. Whatever it is, see if you can connect to what's important there. And as you're doing it, see if you can slow things down a little bit. So rather than just going onto that autopilot that we talked about before, see if you can really fully engage. One of the more helpful ways of doing that sometimes is just slowing things down, and slowing things down even by a half if you can. So if you're chopping vegetables ready for this meal, really slowing that movement down, really engaging with all of those senses that Aisan was speaking about before. Notice what you can smell, what you can hear as the knife goes through the vegetable and onto the chopping board. Notice any smells that come off the vegetables as you do that, or perhaps the smells of anything else that's cooking in the kitchen in that moment. Notice what your body feels like as you go through that slowed down movement of chopping, and really just be in that moment. Similar then if you were to take a bath, if that was something you decided you were going to do, taking perhaps a bit of time out for yourself, much deserved if you've got a very busy, hectic lifestyle at the moment, see if you can slow that down. See if you can again connect with why this is important, this bit of me time, and connect to those senses. So what can you smell? What's the smell of that bubble bath? What's the smell like of the soap that you're using? What's the temperature like of the water around you? And does it feel smooth, or has it got salts in there? Can you feel the bubbles? Just notice the contrasts around you. Really try and be in the situation. And remember, no matter what it is that you choose to do, no matter what that committed action is, it doesn't have to be a massive task. It doesn't have to be something that's going to take you hours. It could be a 5-minute thing. But even taking that one small step in the right direction, that's still helpful. And if you can fully engage with it and fully be present with it, it's still likely to lead to some fulfillment if it's the right activity for you. So remember, the journey of 1,000 miles, it begins with one step. Okay. So just skipping on to the next slide, I just wanted to consider a little bit about what you could do if you were feeling a bit stuck with this, because I appreciate at the moment that routines are very out of place for some people. Perhaps you're not able to work at the moment, or you're not able to do the things that you would used to fill your time with. Perhaps you're feeling quite low in mood, quite depressed or demotivated, and that's all, I think, really natural at this kind of point in time. And obviously when we're feeling like that, it can be really hard to motivate ourselves to do something. If you feel like that's you, it might be helpful to set yourself a bit of a goal. And the first step in that really is just thinking about which area of your life you want to work on. So let's say you pick parenting. Okay, it might be parenting. You could pick work. You could pick your spiritual life. You could pick your friendships. It could be any of those areas. But for this example, we'll go with parenting. The next step then, once you've got your idea, is to think about what kind of person you want to be in that area. What kind of qualities you want to bring to it. How do you want to behave? So as a parent, you might decide, actually, the kind of parent I want to be is a parent that is encouraging, supportive, patient. And once you've got some ideas like that, the next step is setting a SMART goal. So if we skip on to the next slide here, I'll explain a little bit about what I mean with a SMART goal. SMART goals are really ways of making your goals and your tasks a little bit more achievable. And the way that we start with that is by making it specific. So if I know I want to work on parenting, and I know the kind of parent that I want to be, the kind of qualities I want to bring to that, I want to think about what specific thing I can do that is going to show those qualities. So it might be I decide that I'm going to help my child with maths homework that I know they're really struggling with. So I want to decide that that specifically is what I want to do. The next thing to check in with is to figure out, is that goal, is it motivated by your values? So is that really going to fit with what I want it to fit with? And in this case, it does. So working and supporting somebody through their maths homework, being patient with them while they figure things out, it really fits very well with the values that I'm going with there. The A stands for adaptive. So just think, is it actually a wise goal to pursue? Is it actually going to improve life for me or for the other person? And again, I think in this example, that kind of ticks that box. Is it realistic is the next one. So do you have what you need in order to do it? Do you have the time, the money, physical health, or the knowledge? Maths knowledge might be a little bit limited in this instance, but I guess thinking about the values that I want to bring to this situation of helping the child with homework, perhaps knowledge isn't actually essential. I've talked about wanting to be encouraging and patient, and I can do that even if I don't know what I'm talking about with maths. The final thing is making it time framed. So we often find that if motivation is a struggle, it can be really helpful to set our tasks as if they're appointments, and booking that time in to do it. It could be very tempting if we don't book it in as an appointment for ourselves. It can be very tempting to keep putting it off and waiting until that motivation shows up before we can do something. And most people know from experience that motivation doesn't tend to just come out of the blue. So if you can set it as an appointment and do it regardless. So, you know, it might be that I say I'm going to sit down on Thursday afternoon at 2 o'clock and really go through that homework with my child. Okay. So see how you go with using that SMART system, and see if you can use that to help kickstart that motivation. Really do remember, it doesn't matter how big or small that goal is, as long as it's guided and motivated by those values, and as long as you can engage with it, it can really help with that sense of fulfillment and peace. So on to the next slide, onto the next bit of this face COVID idea, is this idea of opening up. And I guess this is just acknowledging that even as you work on committed action, even as you go and take that bath, or you start cooking that meal, or you sit down with your child to help them with the homework, that doesn't mean to say that these difficult thoughts and feelings just suddenly go away, right? So they still will be there. And the difficulty there is if we struggle against those thoughts and feelings, it can end up kind of pulling us out and pulling us away from what's important. Suddenly we're spending more energy trying to get rid of a thought or a feeling, and we're not really connecting with what's in front of us right here and now. So instead of struggling against those thoughts and feelings, our invitation here is to try and find a way of opening up to them. Kind of acknowledging that they're normal human experiences, and that we can allow them to be there rather than struggle against them. So essentially, opening up means to make room for the difficult feelings that might show up. And we're going to go through perhaps a little exercise with that just now. So if we could just move on to the next slide for this. Thank you. So I guess you've started watching this presentation as potentially this is something that you've identified as being important to you, to look after yourself in these difficult times. So that's a bit of that committed action. Even as you watch this presentation, you might still be having those difficult thoughts, difficult feelings popping up all the while. And I wonder if we could just do a little bit of an exercise just now in connecting to those feelings. So I'd like to invite you to sit upright in your chair or wherever you might be sitting. And try and sit with your back straight if you can, and your feet flat on the floor if it's comfortable. The reason I'm suggesting this is that most people find that they're more alert and awake when they're sitting this way. So just check it out and see if that's the case for you. And then I'd like to invite you to either close your eyes or try and fix them on a spot, whichever you prefer. And just take a moment to tap into a sense of curiosity, as if you're that curious child discovering something completely new. And with that sense of genuine curiosity, notice how you're sitting. See if you can notice your feet on the floor, and the position of your back, and where your hands are and what they're touching. Notice whether your eyes are open or closed. Notice what you can see, either under your eyelids or on that fixed spot. What you can hear and smell and possibly taste. Notice what you're thinking. And notice what you're feeling. Notice where in your body that feeling lies. Notice what you're doing. And then bring your attention on to notice what you're feeling. See if you can locate it in your body and notice where that feeling starts and where it stops. If you drew an outline around it, what shape would it be? Observe it with that curiosity. How is it different in the center than around the edges? What's the weight of it like? Is that feeling light or is it heavy? Is it moving or is it still? What's the temperature of that feeling? See if you can describe it in whatever words come to you, what that physical feeling is like. And then when you've got a sense of that, take a moment to try and name the feeling. What would you call it? And then silently say to yourself, I'm noticing a feeling of, whether it's anxiety or sadness, confusion or frustration, or whatever word you find fits it best. And as you're noticing that feeling, and as you're naming it, see if you can breathe into it. So imagine your breath flowing into and around the feeling. And see if you can just allow the feeling to be there. You don't have to like it. You don't have to want it. Just allow it. See if you can let it be. You may notice a strong urge to fight with it or push it away. And if so, just acknowledge that the urge is there without acting on it. And continue to observe the sensation. Remember, we're not trying to get rid of it or alter it in any way. If it changes by itself, then that's okay. But if it doesn't change, that's okay too. We're making room for it. Remember that this feeling tells you valuable information. This feeling is not the enemy. It tells you that you're a normal human being with a heart. It tells you that you care about something. Now, as you do that, take one of your hands and see if you can place it on the area of your body where the feeling seems to be held. Try to imagine that this is a healing hand. So that might be the hand of a friend or a parent or even a nurse. And see if you can feel and notice the warmth flowing from your hand into your body, into that feeling. Not to get rid of the feeling, but to make room for it, to soften up and loosen up around it. See if you can hold it gently, as if it's a crying baby or a frightened puppy. And feel free to leave your hand there or lower it to your lap again if you prefer. So in this exercise, we've invited you to shine a spotlight on this feeling. And now it's time to bring up the rest of the lights around you. So keeping this feeling in the spotlight and at the same time, bringing up the lights on your body. Notice your arms and your legs, and your head and your neck. And notice that you're in control of your arms and legs, regardless of what you're feeling. Just move them around a little bit, just to check that out for yourself. And take a stretch and notice that. And now bring up the lights in the room around you. Open your eyes if they were closed and look around you and notice what you can see and what you can hear and what you can smell. And notice then that there's not just a feeling here. There's a feeling inside a body, inside a room. Expanding that awareness to other things that might be present at the moment. And finally, I'd like to invite you to gently just come back to the here and now and to this presentation that's in front of you. So that exercise was running through some of the strategies and some of the areas that Aisan and I have been exploring in this presentation with you. This idea of opening up being one of them. So I'd invite you to kind of practice this kind of exercise when you're going, when you're doing things during your day, perhaps when you're doing some of that committed action, or when you're noticing any kind of difficult thoughts or feelings. Practicing making space for them rather than putting your energy into trying to get rid of them, which, as Aisan said earlier, is near a possibility. We can't control those thoughts and emotions. Okay, so that's kind of the openness side of things. If we skip on to the next slide then, the next part of this strategy is about looking at your values. So the idea here is that your committed action really should be guided by your values. It's not just about keeping busy or just doing things more mindfully necessarily. It's about doing the right things, the things that are actually important to you, that really fit with who you are as a person and who you want to be. So a few questions here just to help you connect to perhaps some of your values and what's important. So asking yourself, what kind of qualities do I want to be known for? What sort of a person do I want to be at this time? How do I want to be remembered in this crisis? What do I want to stand for in the face of this crisis? And how do I want to treat myself and other people? So only you can answer those questions, and it may take a bit of exploration for yourselves. but they're definitely questions I would encourage you to ask of yourself, just to refocus on what's important. On the next slide, I've included a few examples of some of the kinds of answers that people might have to that. If yours is not here, don't worry. There are very, very many values that are out there. These are perhaps some of the ones that first occurred to me, or that seem perhaps more common. So it might be kindness is a value for you, or being caring. Once you've discovered that value, so for example, that kindness value, you want to think about what you can do with that, how you can fit that in with that committed action. You might have values like adventure, so finding it really important actually to experience new things, to explore. It might be that you've got a value of being organised. And again, you want to be thinking about ways that you can apply that then, ways that you can move towards that in your everyday life. So if we move on to the next slide here, like I said, once you've discovered your values, you want to find ways of sprinkling them into your everyday life. It's almost like you're imagining them as your compass through life. So they're there to point you in the right direction. The idea here is that they should then guide you in the right direction. They should guide your committed action, but you also want to hold them fairly lightly. And by that, what I mean is you don't want to get too attached to those values in themselves. So if I use that compass idea again, if you're going on an expedition or a trek, you would only tend to pull the compass out if you feel like you've lost your way, or perhaps there's a bit of reassurance that you are heading in the right direction. It's the same with values. What you don't really want to do is have the compass out the whole time, clutched into your hand, staring at it obsessively. That becomes less helpful. And it's the same with values. If we hold them too tightly, we start to create quite rigid rules for ourselves. Things like, I should always, or I must never, or I have to. And it's easy to understand how that can become quite unhelpful. So try and hold your values lightly, sprinkle them into your day, pull the values out, pull that compass out if you need a bit of direction, and then put it away again and work on kind of that committed action. And of course, as this crisis continues, or as other crises in your life continue, there will be obstacles that might get in the way, things that perhaps stop you from taking that initial path that you wanted to take. And there might not be any simple solutions to those obstacles. I guess going back to what Aisan was mentioning, we can't control the obstacles being there. But if we can keep in mind our values, if we can pull that compass out of our pocket, we'll be able to navigate a way around those obstacles so that we can still head in the right direction in one way or another. Okay, so moving on just to the final few slides here. The next bit really is about identifying your resources. So understanding that you're not in this on your own, or you certainly don't have to be. Thinking about who can help. So it might be friends or family or neighbours, but it could also be health professionals or emergency services or a variety of other organisations. If you're able to offer help to other people, then let them know. There's lots of charities out there at the moment, I think, that are looking for volunteers. A couple of kind of little hints or tips with this is to try and make sure that you're using reliable and trustworthy sources for the information that you get, especially on coronavirus and how to manage it. So I've put some examples in there. You might want to check out the World Health Organization website, or the NHS website, of course, or the government websites. There is some really good local information on this website here, on the portsmouth.gov.uk site. It has all sorts of information from advice on finances, to advice on how to keep the kids occupied, and different bits of information and websites that can help with that. They also have a helpline, so if when you've gone onto the website, if you're still struggling to find what you need and you've still got questions, you can call their helpline during working hours and speak to somebody and get a bit of advice and guidance on that. There is also the Hive Portsmouth website, and they have a helpline as well, which I've included here. Again, they're open in working hours, so that's 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So yeah, use the support that's around you. That's what it's there for. So the final thing that we certainly couldn't miss out of this is to kind of follow those guidance. So do disinfect regularly, distance yourself physically, washing your hands with soap and water as regularly as you can, singing happy birthday twice if you need to with that, and trying to distance physically, so keeping 2 meters apart from other people who aren't in your household. Okay. And keeping up to date with any further guidance that comes out, of course. So the information that we've provided today has all been based on a therapy called acceptance and commitment therapy. If you're interested in this approach, if you'd like to find out a little bit more, there's a few different places you can go to for that information. So I've included some of these here. The book that I think could be particularly helpful in this day and age is one called The Reality Slap by Russ Harris. It's a very user-friendly book, and it's self-help that uses this ACT approach for times of crisis or trauma. So that's why I think that could be a really helpful one right now. There is also plenty of websites. We've just included just the one here. They have some free stuff on there, which includes lots of worksheets and information. So you can always check that out. And finally, if you feel like this approach could be quite helpful, or if you feel like you are really struggling with symptoms, perhaps symptoms of depression or anxiety, please do feel free to contact us at Talking Change. I've included the number for our referral hotline just there. So if you call that number, you'll speak to one of our team who will take some basic information from you and then set you up with a telephone triage appointment, which is basically a chance for you to speak to one of our practitioners and tell them a little bit more about what's going on so that we know how best to help you. Okay. So that's everything for today in terms of the Face COVID approach. Really hope that you found that helpful and that you've taken something useful away from that. Thank you very much for listening, and yeah, take care.
And thank you so much for listening and being with us. Take care.